More on the Summit of America's George Ciccariello-Maher joins us from Philadelphia, and George is a writer and political theorist. He's the author of a book titled We Created Chavez, A People's History of the Venezuelan Revolution. George, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Our reporter there in Panama City, Michael Voss, just gave us his take on the mood there. Tell us your reaction to what has just happened.
I mean, I think if we're talking about the normalization of relations with Cuba, and if we're talking about the rolling back of what is really more than 5 decades of illegitimate aggression by the United States against the Cuban government, then that's something to be entirely welcomed. However, I think much of the press is perceiving this as a transformation in relations. In other words, a transformation of the Cuban government and of the Cuban system. But I think that's simply not what's on the table at this point. And Raul Castro putting forward some very serious demands indicates that the path toward full normalization, in other words, the U.S. returning something as prized as Guantanamo Bay to its rightful owners in Cuba after more than 100 years, is a major barrier and a major hurdle still to be overcome.
Yes, I think I'm referring more to just the romantic handshake there between the two, and just all the pomp and circumstance leading up to this, and what a historic moment this was.
Well, it's massively historic. We should bear in mind, however, and I think the intro said it quite nicely, that this is the United States actually trying to break out of its sort of self-imposed isolation. Latin America over the past 2 decades has become more autonomous, more sovereign, and more able to act as a unit with new regional institutions acting together, the ALBA, Mercosur, and all these other institutions. And the United States has really been left out in a lot of ways. And now this is the Obama administration attempting to break that open and attempting to overcome what was really a major hurdle at the last Summit of the Americas, namely the exclusion of Cuba.
As you know, this is a political hot potato in the United States. Why do you think this is the right time to move forward with this?
Well, Cuban Americans, first of all, are changing. An entire newer, younger generation of Cuban Americans is much more ambivalent about not only the Castro regime, but also the sanctions and the blockade. And so you have Cuban Americans of a younger generation themselves pushing for this policy. But we should note as well that, and many have noted, the peculiar timing of the sanctions against Venezuela, which came quickly on the heels of this thaw with Cuba. And many perceive this as an attempt to maintain democratic dominance in Florida, to make sure that some of the disaffected Cubans don't end up voting for someone like Marco Rubio.
How will the sanctions against Venezuela affect what's going on in the push to normalize relations with Cuba on the part of the Obama administration?
I think they represent a significant barrier in a lot of ways. Raul Castro has already come out and of course, condemned those sanctions. But it's worth noting that almost every other Latin American country, it's been a near unanimous condemnation of this intervention, which was otherwise quite inexplicable. It's certainly not a move that's going to help the Venezuelan opposition in Venezuela, because it makes them look as though they work along hand in hand with the imperial power. And the only real explanation has to do with Obama attempting to set up someone like Hillary Clinton for a potential Democratic victory in Florida. So this is something that's actually going to have major implications, and already has. It has, in Venezuela, has given Nicolas Maduro a 12% increase in his approval, and it really harmed what Obama otherwise claims to be attempting to do, namely changing the face of Latin America. I mean, changing the face of the United States in Latin America.
George, quickly, we just have a few seconds left. Tell us where you see the relationship with Cuba and the U.S. in 5 years down the road.
Well, Cuba will be pushing for the lifting of this blockade, which is a brutal and harsh anti-humanitarian blockade that's existed for more than 5 decades. And I think that's the primary objective. It's not about transforming a political system. It's about eliminating this inexplicable barrier to human relations.
George Ciccariello-Maher, thank you so much for joining us live from Philadelphia.